The moment we arrived in class, my lively moment with Chris came to a screeching halt. Similar to yesterday, a number of students were absent, not as many, but still enough to raise question. And of course, among those missing from the classroom was Sophie. Although Chris's presence and actions helped to distract me for a while, I could no longer pretend that yesterday didn't happen. When I saw what I was told, what I did, was all bound to resurface. 2 days in a row? I'd like to think that nothing's going on, but maybe you're right, Kai. This does seem a little odd. Though I still think your female uprising theory might be a little off. Yeah. I answered half-heartedly as I glanced around the classroom. On close inspection, the girls who arrived to class late yesterday were present. However, those who skipped the full day were absent. Were they being questioned regarding their truancy? Or had they perhaps been suspended after what happened to Sophie? You know what Sophie said about it being a matter of time before they published those photos of her? There's a very good chance that their punishment would involve suspension, if not something more extreme, like lynching. What's up, Kai? Even if something is going on, it has nothing to do with us, right? I suppose. Why'd you have to say that? I knew Chris was only trying to cheer me up, and in a way, I was relieved to hear her optimism. But after what had happened yesterday, I couldn't brush this off as someone else's problem so easily. I'd already asserted myself in the situation, even if it was only after the conflict died down. I made a point of assisting Sophie and wound up skipping class with her. For better or for worse, I was involved. Jeez, what's wrong with you, Kai? Ever since we got to class, all you've done is mumble dejectedly. I know school's boring, but nothing worth getting depressed over. How about we play a game to kill time? Or maybe we... Whoa, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Unbelievable, she actually showed up. Before Chris could finish speaking, our classmates all suddenly began to whisper among themselves. Chris suddenly stopped mid-sentence, turned around facing the direction with which everyone else seemed to be looking. In the moment she did, Chris too widened her eyes in shock. No way, you kidding me? Good morning, everyone. Oh, wait, no, she doesn't have that accent. She's, good morning, everyone. I'm not too late, am I? While smiling on her face and her usual demeanor have returned in full force, Sophie checked the clock and wanted to make sure that she still had time left before class began. But rather than tardiness, what caught the attention of my classmates was something harder to miss. Sophie's new hairstyle, almost identical to that of a certain tomboy. Is it? I didn't notice. Like in all the screenshots I've seen, I didn't notice that. I didn't even cross my mind. Good morning, Sophie. Your hair is. I was just thinking it was about time to change the style. I gotta stop giving everyone a southern drawl. And short hair is much easier to manage, you know. Taking care of long hair is so time-consuming. What do you think? Do you like it? Well, practicality aside, it's kind of... And Sophie asked the question more than a few of the classmates looked in Chris's direction. It was seen that I wasn't the only one who found that the similarities uncanny. Even Chris herself seemed fixated on Sophie's hair, undoubtedly conscious of her own appearance. Oh, I see. I didn't notice before, but it seems like someone else had the same idea as me. Same idea, my ass. Chris probably had short hair for like 10 years. I guess great minds do think alike, don't they? After briefly glancing at Chris, Sophie glazed over the observation without giving it any further thought. Whether she had modeled her look on Chris, or if it was a simple coincidence, the topic was not one Sophie wished to discuss any further. I thought I was late, but where is everyone? Did something happen? Feigning ignorance, Sophie probed our classmates for information. Haven't you heard? Most of the girls in our class got suspended. Shit, damn. Oh, they did? Oh. What did they do? One of the girls who Sophie questions looked away. Even if they weren't directly involved in what happened to Sophie, they had no doubt heard from the others what was in store for her. Who knows? Why don't you ask your father? I'm sure he'd tell you. Oh, come now, don't be silly. You know he can't tell me things like that. That would be a breach of privacy, you know, not to mention an abuse of power. But right. The girl whom Sophie was addressing averted her gaze nervously. Despite her friendly tone and bright smile, it seemed that Sophie exerted a strong pressure on the girls in front of her. Oh god, yeah, it's very similar. Jeez. A third of the class is absent and Sophie just has to be the one of the few girls here. Who does she think she's fooling anyway? She's totally stole my look. Now, you should be flattered. You're right. I want people mistaking me for her. Oh, Christine, you say the funniest things. There are some obvious differences, but yeah, it's quite similar. Quite similar indeed. Suddenly, right beside us, Sophie calls Chris and I to both jump back in surprise. Sophie, what are you? Relax. You needn't be concerned about me, especially when it comes to similarities in our appearance. Even if our hairstyles are similar, there's no way anybody would mix the two of us up. The devious smirk appeared on Sophie's face as she lowered her gaze to Chris's chest. I ain't goodness for that. Seemed that those cow tits of yours finally serve a purpose after all. What did you say to me? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking out loud. Say, Kai, you know how long it takes large breasts to sag? If sagging at old age is the price to pay for a lifetime of elegance, then so be it. I'd much rather endure minor discomfort in my golden years than spend my entire life being mistaken for a boy. Fat piece of... Girls, please, enough bickering. Even if you argue about this, it's not like it'll change anything. As you say. Sophie and Chris turn away from each other, putting a quick end to their unnecessary squabble. Forget it. Chris isn't the one I want to speak to anyways. I'm sorry I couldn't do this before, but here. So he pulled roughly $30 out of her pocket and handed it to me. What? No, I didn't want the fucking money. Money? Kai, what is this? Mentally cursing Sophie for doing this in front of Chris, I desperately tried to think of a feasible excuse. If you must know, Kai and I... God damn it. If you must know, Kai and I skipped class together in order to go shopping. Isn't that right, Kai? Damn it, Sophie, don't tell her that. Kai, is this true? Is that where you went yesterday? Of course it's true. Why would I lie about that? Shut up, I'm not asking you. Did you or did you not skip class yesterday to go shopping? Make up a lie based on the truth. Ooh, I don't like any of these answers. Cause like in the end I'm still lying. But then what am I gonna tell her about the truth? I mean, like, the fact that none of these answers is like what really happened means that they're all wrong. I guess I'll play the honest boy. Yeah, that's right. Sophie and I skipped yesterday to go shopping together. Chris stared me down, carefully scrutinizing what I told her. Impossible. Eh? What do you mean impossible? Chris just confirmed. The only thing Chris confirmed is that he isn't half as good at lying as he thinks he is. I rubbed the back of my head and averted my gaze. Whether it was something worth bragging about or not, I'd always thought of myself as a pretty good liar. So for Chris to see right through my deception so easily. Deny reality all you want, but it's true that Chris and I left school together yesterday. And yet Kai returned, while you left your belongings at school and never showed up to class. Yeah, right. I know Chris far too well to believe he'd skip class to go shopping, even if it's with you. Even if it's with me. Oh, no. What Chris means is, yeah, that's, you know, even a manipulative woman like you couldn't convince Kai to go do something like that. Sophie smirched as Chris almost let slip information which, if leaked, could severely detriment my mental health. Well, if Christine is so sure of herself, then far be it from me to say that she's wrong. But even if Kai and I didn't go shopping together yesterday, that doesn't mean it's off the table. Until then, Kai. Even nonchalantly while she still wearing a smirk on her face, Sophie left us alone and sat down at her own desk. That little. I heard rumors that she was a man stealer, but I think she'd so blatantly. Kai. Yes. Stop leering at her and look at me. No matter what, you are forbidden to ever go shopping with that girl. Understood? No, but isn't that a little understood? Yes, I understand. With more forcefulness than usual, Chris immediately wore down my resistance and made me agree to her unreasonable demand. Strangely, I don't feel troubled by her assertion, nor did I resent Chris's attempt to get between Sophie and I, because no matter what reason she gave for her actions, I knew the truth was that Chris was only acting this way because she cares about me. And after the scene from this morning, not to mention the conversation that ensued, a small part of me hoped that her actions might even be driven by jealousy. Is it so wrong for an unpopular guy like me to wish for two girls to fight over him? Our teacher arrived, attention in the classroom naturally dissipated. Our collective focus was drawn to the lesson at hand rather than our classmates' changing style. We were given no leeway to chat. Even so, I didn't stop to stray comment here or there, nor did it put an end to a sideways glance directed at the new Sophie. Looking at Sophie carefully from behind, I still couldn't reach any other conclusion than she normally modeled her hair after Chris's. But why? Those two have never gotten along, and I certainly can't see them becoming friends anytime soon, especially now, given Sophie's accusations yesterday. I would think that modeling her hairstyle after Chris would be the last thing she would want to do. Could this be some weird kind of revenge? Or was Sophie perhaps realizing that Chris wasn't present after all? Has Chris perhaps realized he wasn't present after all? Bullying? I mean, if I'm going Team Chris, then I'm gonna assume Sophie was lying. And she's doing this as like a fucking balls to the wall attempt at man stealing. I guess before all she had to do was like rub her finger against the guy's chin and then they'd sleep together, but I mean with Kai being super dense and the protagonist, she's gotta go like all out. Just fucking nuts and bonzo. Whatever the case, the tension between those two doesn't seem like it'll be erased anytime soon. So I'm going to befriend Sophie. So if I'm going to befriend Sophie, I need to play it safe. Once again, reaffirming my own view on what was going on, I returned my gaze to the front of the class just as class ended. To my relief, our teacher left the classroom without assigning us any homework, and her prompt departure gave us the freedom to express our discontent once more. How is it still morning? Just kill me now and get it over with. Class wasn't that bad, was it? At least we didn't get any homework. That isn't what I'm worried about, huh? The moment that Chris finished speaking, I noticed footsteps growing closer to us. When I raised my head, surely enough, the true source of Chris's charging. I always say charging. Maybe that's misspelled. I don't know. To think that our first lesson of the day has ended already. Time sure flies when you're having fun, doesn't it, Kai? I mean, of course, breaks are important too. Mustn't get too bogged down with our studies. Besides, if we didn't take the occasional break, we wouldn't be able to chat like this, would we? Yeah, that's right. You really don't need to sell me on the concept of taking a break, though. That's the one part of school I have plenty good grasp on. Haha, you don't say. I do hope that you're treating your other duties as a student with as much prudence as your breaks, though. As students, we must attend class diligently and spend our time increasing our knowledge in preparation for what lies beyond. Oh, that's rich coming from a girl who skipped class yesterday. Perhaps sick of being ignored, Chris chimed in just as Sophie's lectures began to gain traction. That was an isolated incident and not something to be emulated. Yeah, right. Earlier, you were gleefully bragging about how you skipped class to go shopping, and now you're saying it's a bad thing? You're such a hypocrite. Sophie's calm demeanor disappeared in no time at all as Chris began to speak to her. In spite of Sophie's usual cheerful and pleasant personality, it seemed that Chris possessed the ability to easily get under Sophie's skin and to call her out on her bullshit. You're just jealous that I was spending time with Kai without your knowledge. What? Don't be absurd. Kai and I already spent plenty of time together. Why would I care if he took pity on you and wasted an hour of his time? Took pity on me? Wasted his time? Christine, don't you think you're being awfully rude? I understand that jealousy makes people do and say irrational things, but please, try to control yourself. I told you, I'm not jealous. Kai and I don't even have that kind of relationship. Oh, is that so? In that case, you wouldn't have no reason to object if I were to ask Kai out on a date then, would you? What? Date? Chris exclaimed loudly enough for the entire class to hear her. But at that point in time, I paid her surprise no mind. What? Because even more so than Chris, I was in complete shock. That's right. That's what two people do when they're fond of one another, isn't it? It's embarrassing to say, but I've actually had my eye on Kai for a long time now, and I like to think that he feels the same way. So Kai, if you don't already have plans this Saturday, would you like to spend time with me? I, frozen in place, unable to believe what I was hearing, I stared blankly at Sophie with my mouth wide open. I was happy that Sophie started to speak to me this morning. Never imagined that yesterday's events would so quickly lead to a situation like this. Moreover, if what she said was true, then me longing for her was not one-sided. Unbelievably, she too watched over me from across the classroom, wishing for the two of us to grow closer. It all seemed too good to be true. If you're sure you want to with me, then... Hey, he can't. Kai can't go on a date with you, Chris. Before I could answer, Chris suddenly interrupted. With a look of panic on her face and clear distress in her voice, she desperately cut me off. Oh, is that so? And why is that, Christine? I thought you said your relationship wasn't like that. It isn't, but... And say it. Shutting down Chris's interference, Sophie directed her gaze towards me once more. Please, Kai, you don't have to answer immediately, but do give it some thought. I know we haven't spoken much, and I do apologize for that, but if possible, I would like to take this opportunity to get to know you better. If you feel the same way, please do me the honor of escorting me this weekend. I shifted my gaze back and forth between Chris and Sophie, trying to make sense of what's happening. As though playing out a fantasy I had many times before, Sophie asked me on a date. With red cheeks, Sophie shyly admitted to liking me. She said that she wanted to get to know me better and that our feelings were mutual, and I couldn't be happier. However, Kai, unlike my fantasies in which I'd immediately accept Sophie's invitation without consequence or consideration of others, this time around, Chris was right beside me. Just looking at her face, I could tell that Chris wanted me to refuse Sophie's invitation. Chris's objection, whether it stemmed from something as simple as her loathing of Sophie or perhaps from feelings Chris expressed for me this morning, was not something I could ignore. I didn't want to hurt Chris. Her happiness mattered to me greatly, even if her apparent fondness for me was all in my head. The last thing I wanted to do was make her sad. But that didn't mean the answer would come to me easily. Denying the friendship with Zoe, who just yesterday was attacked by her closest companions, would be akin to abandoning her at her most vulnerable. On the other hand, accepting Sophie's invitation would mean hurting Chris, my best friend, who just this morning gave me reason to think there might be more to our relationship. In the end, what it all comes down to is who I trust more. And after listening to Sophie's accusation yesterday, trying to make me think the worst of my best friend, my answer was obvious. No matter what kind of happy future I fantasized with Sophie, it was all meaningless if it meant casting Chris aside. A fleeting crush could not stand against a decade of friendship, even if I pined? No, it's not pinned. I don't know words. My feelings for Chris, unclear though they may be, were far stronger. And so, more than ever, my body and soul pulled me towards the one person who I could never bring myself to abandon. Sophie, thank you for the invitation. It means a lot to me that you've invited a guy like me out, and I want to get to know you better too. But the thing is, I was planning on asking Chris out this weekend. Oh? Where are you now? Where are you now, Kai? Yeah, my answer, Chris screamed in pleasure and surprise. I mean, I guess it was pleasure. You mean like you and me together on a date? I didn't necessarily mean it like that. I just wanted to fucking get out of this room. Yeah, sure. Be it as friends, boyfriend and girlfriend, or something else entirely, my time with Chris is always enjoyable. So even if I was mistaken about Chris's feeling towards me or about mine for hers, I would never regret choosing to spend the weekend with her. I wasn't planning to ask you out like this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but of course I'll go. Oh gosh, but this is so sudden. My good clothes are all at the house. You never ruined the surprise and mood if we walked together from Chris. Maybe I should have played it cool and given it some thought before answering. Chris? No, wait, our parents get back tomorrow night, so it should be fine. I'll go home tomorrow, spend the night at my house, pick something to wear, and okay, Saturday morning we'll meet at the house. Unable to control excitement, Chris took far longer Unable to control her excitement, Chris took far longer than usual to realize how loudly she was talking. By this point, every set of eyes in the classroom was fixated on her, and everybody knew her plans for the weekend. We'll talk tonight. Completely red in the face, and not just from embarrassment, Chris quietly walked towards the classroom door. Chris? What are you doing? Classes will be starting soon. Speaking of Chris's receding back, I watched her nervously as her figure disappeared from my sight. Oh well, she probably needs a minute to cool her head. With Chris no longer visible, I pulled my eyes away from the door, only to suddenly remember that Chris was not the only person to whom I was speaking. Sophie, don't bother. Responding in a harsh tone, Sophie looked down at the floor as she spoke. I already knew that the two of you were like that, even if you weren't already dating. No one could see it. It was only a matter of time. I'm sorry for trying to butt in. Are you sorry? Betraying the self-deprecation in her words, Sophie's voice contained clear hostility as she hurried away from my desk and returned to her seat. She immediately slumped her shoulders, placing her forehead on the desk and wrapping her arms around the side of her head so no one could see her expression. Whether she felt disappointed by my rejection or betrayed that I would take Chris's side after hearing the claims Sophie made about her, Sophie was clearly done talking. For the time being, all I could do was watch her trembling figure and wait for Chris to return. Hey, Kai. Yeah? Can you believe it? We're going on a real date. You and me, boyfriend and girlfriend. And just saying that makes my heart pound like crazy. Hey, on a scale of 1 to I'm about to wet my pants, how nervous were you when you asked me out? What kind of grading scale is that? And I wasn't that nervous, though I probably would have been if I intended for it to be a date from the beginning. You were so cute trying to act all calm and mature about asking me out in front of everyone. It's not like I was supposed to be in front of everyone. You just attracted too much attention when you started screaming at a date like a maniac. Well, excuse me for being excited. Would you rather have me brush it off like it was nothing? I bet that's what Sophie would have done. Don't say that. You saw how nervous Sophie was when she asked me out. I wouldn't be so sure about that. As Sophie's name came up, I felt a sense of unease begin to bag me down. Kai, you alright? Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry, I was just thinking about stuff. God, you can't say that. You can't say that. You're regretting choosing me over her? No, of course not. I was feeling guilty about turning her down, that's all. After you left the classroom, Sophie just kept her head on her desk, buried her face under her arms, and didn't surface until the next lesson started. I knew from the beginning that no matter what answer I gave, someone would get hurt, but that didn't make it any easier to endure. All through class, I couldn't help but wonder if I should have turned her down without involving Chris. Maybe I could have delayed my answer until later, or faked a stomachache. Now it was too late for any of that. And while I was happy with one part of the result, Sophie's despondent expression was one I wouldn't soon forget. Oh, I see, I didn't notice that. To be honest, I wasn't paying attention to Sophie at all after that. I didn't even think about how she must have taken it. Not that I feel bad about it though. Despite the empathy in her voice a moment ago, Chris quickly changed tune and wore a bright smile on her face. Once more. Really, I still can't believe you asked me out on a date, and in the middle of class at that. You got more guts than I thought, Kai. Yeah, I guess you're right. To be honest, I kinda surprised myself, though Chris was the first one who actually called it a date, not me. So what do you think we should do first? I kinda wanna go home and start messaging all my friends, but I told most of them at school already. I only have 3 friends, you know, and they all sit next to me. Oh, and I should call my parents, or would it be better to wait until they get home and tell them all together? I smiled nervously as Chris' enthusiasm continued to climb. Chris, I get that you're excited, but I think you should dial it down. You haven't even gone anywhere or done anything yet. Do you really think announcing to your parents that we're a couple is the first thing we should be doing? A couple? Just hearing you say that makes me all giddy. Although I hadn't thought about it while I was speaking, I did find it kind of odd how natural I refer to us as a couple. Maybe I'm more ready for this than I thought. I didn't intend for this, and it just kind of happened. But now that it has, I think I might actually be happy about this. But you might have a point. Are we boyfriend and girlfriend yet, or is it not official until we've actually gone on a date? We've gone out together plenty of times in the past anyway, so do these outings count? Or does a relationship get wiped clean the second it changes? You're overthinking this. No, you're underthinking this. Come on, Kyle, work with me here. Does the relationship start fresh when it changes, or does the past also shape your new relationship? I mean, it doesn't matter with Chris. Does it? I think it all adds up. Cause you can't. I mean, I see in anime all the time. It's like, girl likes a guy, so he asks us out, and then they start talking to each other, even though they don't know each other. But like, I always thought it'd be better to like fucking get to know each other super hard. And who better to date than the friend you've known for like 10 years? I'm gonna say it all adds up. I don't think a couple should be backed down by the past forever, but it's not like you can just pretend that the past didn't happen. I mean, if a couple didn't have a history together, they wouldn't be dating in the first place, right? It's only because two people have spent so much time together that they can reach that stage. Without that built up, what's the point? That's a pretty good argument. I certainly do agree that people should have a good relationship before they become a couple. But even so, I don't want to think that it's a requirement. Of course, that's probably just because I'm a sucker for love at first sight stories. So what's the verdict? Are we a couple yet? Or do I still have another day of freedom left? Dunno. Oh, come on. A sigh in disbelief as Chris struck off the topic she was so fixated on a moment ago. Whatever, it's not like I do anything different anyways. I mean, as long as we still act the same at home, it really shouldn't make any difference, should it? Right, I forgot about that. I was thinking about whether to call my own parents, but I completely forgot about yours. Okay, as soon as we get home, let's tell your mother everything. No, wait, no! Before I could stop her, Chris ran towards my house eagerly, closing the final stretch in the heartbeat as our house came to view. Crap, I'm out of shape. Breathing hard as I failed to keep up, I reached my house much later than Chris. While Chris would sometimes spend her free time playing sports with friends in other classes, I had no such hobbies. I lived a very sedentary lifestyle. Apart from walking to and from school, I indulged in little to no exercise. Suffice to say, there is no way I could compete with Chris in terms of fitness. Damn, am I too late? Still panting, I straightened my back and ran into the next room. Ooh. Inside, I saw my mother and Chris, who both turned to me with joyful looks on their faces. Ka, there you are. You're slow. I was just about to go out without you. Go on. Does that mean I made it in time after all? Only just. So, do you want to tell your mother, or should we do it together? I'm not too late after all. Listen, Chris, before that, I was thinking we should... Oh, you don't need to wait, Kai. We'll dally around for hours before spitting it out. Come on, don't keep me in suspense any longer. I'm with it already. I hurriedly tried to stop Chris before we could pass the point of no return, only to have my feeble attempts of resistance torn down immediately. Oh, mother, you're so impatient. Alright then, I'll tell you myself. Kai and I we're going to be going out for a while on Saturday, so plan accordingly, okay? I desperately interrupted Chris, causing her obvious displeasure. Although I was the one who invited Chris out, and I spoke about us being a couple in a surprisingly natural fashion, I felt far too uneasy to be spreading news of our hours-old relationship already. Oh, is that all? Honestly, Chris, you had me thinking that something amazing had happened. My bad. I suppose that means I won't need to cook lunch on Saturday. Maybe I should go out too. It feels like I don't get out much nowadays anyways. Mumbling to herself, my mother walked into the next room while thinking deeply about her plans for the weekend. I'm sorry. Without waiting for Chris to address me, I instinctively apologized. Jerk. Why do you have to do that? You made it sound so boring. The way you put it, your mother didn't even realize I was trying to say. I know. That's kind of the idea. Do you not want your mother to know? I know it's a bit sudden, but personally, I think she'd be happy to know. Even if it was largely in jest, she's always been supportive of the two of us becoming a couple. I think she'd be wanting this almost as much as I have. But you don't want to tell her yet. But if you don't want to tell her yet, I won't force you. No, it's not like that. It's not like I want to keep our relationship a secret or anything, and I have no intention of hiding it from my mother. It's just, like you said before, we haven't even gone out yet. I only asked you out a few hours ago, and you think it's a little hasty to be calling ourselves a couple already? Yeah, I guess. But you know, a red tinge appeared on Chris's face, alerting me to the smile that was about to surface. Even if I'm being hasty, I'm just so excited. I know it's irrational to get so happy over something like this, but I've waited for so long, and now that I'm finally happened, I just want to tell everyone. I guess maybe I've been in this relationship a lot longer than you have, inside my head at least. I get that feeling. Chris. Hearing how Chris felt, my doubts were immediately cleared away. Whether we were being hasty, getting excited over nothing, or just acting like hormonal teenagers, there was no reason not to be enthusiastic. Even if we looked like excitable idiots in the eyes of others, as long as we were happy, that's all that mattered. Alright, have it your way. Let's tell my mother the good news. Really? Okay. Of course, you're not the only one who's excited about all this, you know? But maybe we should wait until tomorrow morning. She might think it's inappropriate for us to sleep in the same house now that we're... Chris? Fuck! This is what you get. Quit backing down, you coward. It's true, he asked me in the middle of class right in front of everyone. Now everyone knows that I'm his. The moment I gave Chris my approval, she ran to the next room and told my mother everything. I immediately heard an unnaturally high-pitched scream of delight from my mother, who proceeded to engage Chris in a one-on-one match of enthusiasm. In that, I could only sigh in resignation as the two of them expressed enough joy for the three of us. Even as one of the involved parties, and the one who started all this, it somehow felt like I was the least enthusiastic person of all. Was it because the reality of the situation hasn't set in yet? Was it simply that I couldn't compare the excitable pair in the next room? Or was it unconsciously feeling guilty about hurting Sophie to get to this stage? Whatever the case, tonight was going to be interesting to say the least.